Okay, today we will start with the introduction part. So in the introduction part, I will say something about the style of this writing course. So I will quote some examples from the book. So this is entitled Style, the Basics of Clarity and Grace. So to write an article, the important thing is to be very clear and graceful. Pay attention to its courtesy, the writing style. Then how to achieve these standards? So let's look at some examples. First, we need to pay attention to cohesion and coherence. Cohesion means the connection of two simple sentences. Coherence refers to the logical connection of these sentences. For example, the example and, therefore, so these are the cohesion words expressing the reason. It is important to note that in eastern states since 1980, acid rain has become a serious problem. Then this sentence is very long, has covered 3 lines. How about a better expression? Since 1980, therefore, acid rain has become a political problem in the eastern states. So, can you figure out the difference? So the point here is that in most of our sentences, not necessarily all sentences, we should start with the subject. So this subject of the sentence is acid rain. Then this can make the subject the topic of the sentence. So it can make the general idea stand out instead of reading unnecessary part like therefore. It is important to note that. So it is not necessary. Yeah. Now this is the first point, coherence and cohesion. Now I'd focus on a basic principle of clarity. So how to make your writing clear, especially in the case of practical writing. So in a simple sentence, that a short, easily grasped segment is a subject. This is a topic. So I hope you can compare the following 2 sentences. First one, resistance in Nevada against its use as a waste disposal site has been heated. Then the second sentence. So seemingly the second sentence is shorter. So how does it say? Nevada has heatedly resisted its use as a waste disposal site. So immediately give Nevada as a subject. In sentence A, so the subject has been very, very long and until it has used the passive voice. But in the second sentence, instead of using the noun resistance, so this author has used the verb resisted. So it makes the reading much easier. Now this and also clearer. This is the first example. So in a complex sentence, the previous one is a simple sentence. How about a complex sentence? That a short, easily grasped segment is a main cause that expresses the point of its sentence. Then let's compare these 2 sentences. Greater knowledge of pre-Columbian civilizations and the effect of European colonization destroying their societies by inflicting on them devastating diseases has led to a historical reassessment of Columbus' role in world history. So this sentence, quite long, but a little bit muddle-headed, very confusing, because the subject is so long. It has covered 3 lines. How about the second sentence? Has it been improved a little bit? Historians are assessing Columbus' role in a world history. Now, this is the main sentence. The reason why they know more about pre-Columbian civilizations and how European colonization destroyed their societies by inflicting on them devastating diseases. So, in the second sentence, by using a complex sentence to show the main idea and also the reason why they should reassess Columbus' role, because you have brought them civilization, in the meanwhile, you have brought them devastating disease. So the line is very clear. So in the first sentence, the point of sentence is buried at the end, while in the second sentence, the opening clause states the main point of the sentence, its most important claim. So in writing a very complicated idea, we need to put the general idea in the main sentence and using a complex sentence to express sometimes the reasons, sometimes the conditions of this idea. Now, let's see, next sentence. There are several rules of concision to write very short, concise articles. We need to follow 6 principles. Now, here I just generally go over all these 6 points to leave some impression on our mind. Now, firstly, delete words that mean little or nothing. So every word has a meaning. What does it mean by mean little or nothing? Later on, I will let you see the examples. Number 2, we also need to delete words that repeat the meaning of other words. That means these words are redundant. They are saying the same expression. Number 3, delete words implied by other words. That means they have involved the meaning already. Then number 4, replace a phrase with a word. So to make it shorter, one word can do the job. Don't use a sentence, a phrase to just finish the task, to be simpler. Now this is also the rule of being concise. Next one, change negatives to affirmatives. That means to change negative ideas, sentences, words into an affirmative sentences, words, because negatives are much more difficult to understand, to comprehend. Lastly, we also need to delete useless adjectives and adverbs. So some adjectives are not necessary, so we can cross them out. Now these are the principles of concision, being concise. Firstly, delete meaningless words. Now look at the example. Because some words are verbal tics. What does it mean? We use them as unconsciously as we clear our throats. So we can't help clearing our throats. So those verbal tics, we just say it sometimes unconsciously, like the word kind of. So we say he is smart. We can also say, he is kind of smart. So kind of, we can cross out this word. Actually, generally, basically, virtually, now all these words so can be crossed out. It does not really mean much, does not contribute to the general idea. Now let's read the first sentence. It has covered 3 lines. Productivity actually depends on certain factors that basically involve psychology more than any particular technology. So actually, certain, basically, particular, now all these words can be considered as verbal tics. They do not really mean much, so we can make it concise, cross them out, delete these meaningless words, change it into productivity depends on psychology more than on technology. So the sentence looks very concise, and in the meanwhile, it has contained the general idea. So number 2, delete doubled words. Why there are a lot of doubled words in English? Because in the history of English, especially in the earlier times, writers got into the habit of pairing a French or a Latin word with a native English word. Why? Because at that time, foreign words sounded more knowledgeable, more learned. So most paired words today are just redundant. It's not necessary. So among the list, like a full and a complete, because full means complete, they are redundant. Hope and trust, so they mean the same thing. And so the phrase we like to use is first and foremost. So it means firstly. But actually, according to this idea, it is a little bit just redundant. First means foremost. Yeah. Now let's move on. Now the third idea is delete what readers can infer. So you can already get the general idea from the word itself. Now this redundancy is very common, but very hard to identify because it comes in so many forms. Now, like redundant modifiers, very often, the meaning of a word, and now look at the italicized words, implies the modifier. Now look at the bold-faced word. For example, the first sentence, do not try to predict those future events that will completely revolutionize society, because past history shows that it is the final outcome of minor events that unexpectedly surprises us more. So in this sentence, we can find the italicized words like revolutionize. So completely, if you do something completely, it is a revolution. So it is a kind of revolutionize something. And then the past history. So if it is a history, it must have happened in the past. So it is also redundant. Final outcome. So outcome is the final result. So again, it is redundant. The bold-faced word final is really not that important. And you unexpectedly surprise somebody. So surprise means you take somebody by surprise, unexpectedly. So if we cross out some of these words, what do they look? Now, do not try to predict revolutionary events, because history shows that the outcome of minor events surprises us more. So in this sentence, it is, we have crossed out all those bold-faced words like completely, past, final, unexpectedly. So it is more clear, it is more reader-friendly. Now, next point. So we need to replace a phrase with a word. For example, a phrase can be very long, too lengthy. Then we use one word. For example, carefully read what you have written. So that is edit or proofread, right? The next sentence, the thing to do before anything else. So that is first or firstly or to begin with. So it is shorter. Yeah. Use X instead of Y. So we can use one word. Replace, substitute. So it is much simpler. Supplant, yeah, all these words means replace, take the place of. Next one, nouns instead of verbs. So it means nominalizations. So instead of using just using nouns, rather than verbs. There is a special term. Last example, of subjects and verbs. That is a clause, so we can use clauses. So now this idea to make it shorter by using word, if we can, instead of using phrase, it can be very complex, longer. Here are some common phrases, so bold-faced, to watch for. Note that some of these let you turn a nominalization into a verb, both italicized. So some words are bold-faced, some words are italicized. Now let's just see how they have changed. These are the further examples. Now let's see the first example. We must explain the reason for the delay in the meeting and how to change it. The reason for, so we can change it into why, so it is simpler. The delay, the noun, then we use a verb, is delayed. So when you are using a verb, this is easier to understand. So the whole sentence becomes, we must explain why the meeting is delayed. So much easier to understand. Now the second example, despite the fact that the data were checked, errors occurred. So the phrase, despite the fact that, so we can just use even if, even though, so the sentence was simpler. Even though the data were checked, errors occurred. Now, next sentence. In the event that you finish early, contact this office. In the event that, it expresses the condition. So if you use if, so it is simpler. If you finish early, contact this office. So in this sentence, the word contact, pay attention to the use of contact. Contact somebody without with. Influenced by Chinese, many students would use contact with somebody. No, it's wrong. Contact somebody. Contact the office. Contact me. Next example. In a situation where a class closes, we may petition to get in. So in a situation where, so it means when. So that's a condition. When a class closes, you may petition to get in. Petition means to write, to express your demand, your desire. So it is petition. And next one, so you use when instead of in a situation where. Now, next sentence. I want to say a few words concerning the matter of money. Concerning the matter of, so 4 words. Simply, in the second sentence, just one word, about, or just say concerning. I want to say a few words about money. So this is simpler, very concise. Now, next sentence, there is a need for more careful inspection of all wells. Inspection means examination, check. So in the second sentence, inspection has been turned into verb. We must inspect all wells more carefully. So it is more concise to read instead of this there be structure. Lastly, we are in a position to make you an offer. In a position to do something means we can do it. We have the ability to do it. So we say, we can make you an offer. So it is more concise to read. Okay, now this is the example. Now let's look at next one, number 5. Change negatives to affirmatives. So do not write in the negative. Instead, we are encouraged to write in the affirmative, So we can, for example, we can rewrite most negatives. So not careful, we say careless. Not many, we say few or little. Not the same means different. Not often, so rarely. Seldom. Not allow, so means block, prevent, stop. Not stop means continue. Not notice means overlook, neglect, ignore. So not include, so we may say omit or exclude. Okay, so much for this part. We'll continue in the next period.